folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Heroes of the Heartland, and it's from the publisher 2 Dice Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page to find out more information than I could possibly tell you here. To do that, all you got to do is follow the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Go there and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, Heroes of the Heartland is a competitive strategy, both tile control and also resource management game, but also combat as well. It's got a lot of different things going on. It's set in a fantasy world where you and the other players take control of a hero, a fantasy hero who is leading their people to a new promised land. Like they're migrating away from their old land and going out into the wilderness to get resources and to build up their structures and their civilization. But of course, it's not quite that easy. If you're going out into the wilderness, you're going to be running into monsters, and you're going to be running into the other players who are vying for the same territory as well. So let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype copy of the game. So a lot of what you see here may end up looking exactly the same as it is in the final version, but some things may not. Some little rules might change here and there, so on and so forth, and that is exactly why you need to go to the Kickstarter page to find out more information as the campaign progresses. But after that, we're going to come back and discuss it further. Heroes of the Heartland is a fantasy, competitive strategy, and resource management game for 2 to 4 players. Each player controls a hero representing a group of people who are migrating out of their homeland and out into the resource-rich wilderness. You'll need to use this hero to explore tiles representing different terrain, acquire resources, level up, and build up your people's base. In game terms, your goal is to acquire victory points, usually through special War and Peace quest cards. Ultimately, at the end of 5 rounds, the player with the most victory points will be the winner of the game. Set up the game by first rolling randomly to determine who will be the start player. In turn order, each player chooses a color and takes the corresponding pieces. A player mat representing their hero, a reference card, pieces representing their units, a miniature representing their hero, and markers to keep track of the hero's stats. Each player also gets a starting tile representing their home base. We'll talk more about how this is set up in a moment. Make sure all the hero stats begin in the start position. Your hit stat starts at 0, 1, 2, which means you only hit on those numbers on a d10. Strikes start at 1, representing the number of dice you roll in combat. Move starts at 1 and is how many hex tiles your hero can move. And life is the maximum health you can have at any time, starting at 5. Your current health track has a marker that will be used to keep track of that. Every player gets a certain number of terrain tiles. For a 2-player game, they each get 5 forests, 2 hills, and 1 mountain. You will also put 1 forest tile out in the middle of the play area as the starting tile. Then, each player in order will take turns placing one of their tiles out on the table attached to the other tiles, building 1 ring out, starting with the spaces next to the starting forest. This includes each player's home base tile, which can go anywhere except right next to another player's home base. Once this is done, each player can place their starting pieces on their base tile. Your hero mini, a mine with 1 gold resource on it, 1 road attached to an adjacent tile, and 1 troop. Every tile except the player bases should get a random explorer token, placed face down. If claimed during the game, these tiles can either give you a resource, experience, victory points, or, if you're really unlucky, make you lose health. Near the newly completed map, place the shuffled decks of explorer cards corresponding to each terrain type. You'll need to draw and challenge these cards when exploring a tile. Most of the cards are monsters with their own hit, strike, and health ratings, as well as rewards in the form of resources and experience if you manage to defeat the monster. Rarely you will just find extra resource cards, victory point cards, and healing potion cards instead. If you're very unlucky, you'll stumble on the most powerful monster, the dragon, which, when drawn, will have its mini placed on the map on that tile and will destroy any structures on the tile, claiming all those structures' resources to be claimed by whoever finally defeats it. You should also make stocks of the 4 resource cubes: green wood, black stone, blue metal, and yellow gold. There are also red cubes used for hero experience points. Put 1 of each of these cubes, including experience, on your hero mat before you begin. Place the War Victory Point card, Bully, and the Peace Victory Point card, Explorer, face up next to their respective shuffled face-down decks. When a player meets the conditions set on the victory point cards, they can claim the cards and keep it in their play area until the end of game, and then, later on, new VP cards will be flipped over for that deck for the players to fight over. Finally, the predetermined starting player will take the turn tokens and keep them in a stack in front of him or her. Each round is broken up into 6 turns, and each turn each player takes a move and an action. When all players have done this, the next turn marker is flipped. Even numbered turn markers also will signal you to replenish the resources on all structures on the map. When the 6th turn is complete, the round ends and the next player becomes the start player for the new round, taking the stack of turn markers. There is a special round marker as well to keep track of the actual rounds of the game. As stated, on a player's turn, the first thing they can do is move a hero and/or their troops. Heroes may move freely onto adjacent tiles, as many as their movement rating allows, but troops can only move one tile along road pieces. Moving through a tile, however, might be more complicated. You can move units through an occupied enemy tile, which means a tile that only has enemy structures on it, though you can stop if you wish and even choose to do a combat raid against enemy structures to get their resources. But you cannot move through a controlled enemy tile, which is one that has either an enemy hero or troops on it. And in fact, moving onto a controlled tile means combat will commence between both players, whether you like it or not. Combat is very simple, with attacking players rolling dice for their hero or troops that move into the space, and the defender rolling dice for their hero, troops, and structures all together, if applicable. Defending units also get removed in that order: hero, troops, and structures. The number of 10-sided dice rolled is equal to the hero, unit, and structure's strike ratings. The hit ratings determine what numbers count as hits. Combat does not stop until one side is defeated. An attacker who wins will take any resources, and the defender's structure will be downgraded from village to mine, for example. A hero gets experience points if they win and actually takes part in the battle. A hero who is knocked out is put down on their side in their home base tile. After moving and potential player combat, the current player can take one action with several options for that action. They can explore a tile that they're on, which lets them flip over an explore card of the corresponding terrain type and resolve it. If it's a heal, resource, or victory point card, they simply take the indicated stuff. If it's a monster, they must enter into combat with it until one of them is defeated, similar to how player combat works. If you win, or simultaneously knock each other out, take the monster card, any rewards listed in the bottom corner, including experience and resources, and the explore token on the map, which is a one-time bonus for being the first to explore a specific tile. You can still explore on an occupied tile, but not a controlled tile. The next type of action is recovery. If a hero is down on your home base, they stand up and recover all hit points. If they are out in the wilderness, they stand up but only get 3 hit points. The next action is build. You can build 1 or 2 units by paying the costs on the reference sheet and placing those units on either your home base or tiles connected to the home base via roads, but not on controlled, occupied, or unexplored tiles. Mines must be built first and then turned into villages, but you could do this with the same build action by using both of your specific builds. New structures automatically get a resource depending on their tile. Mines make 1 resource and villages make an additional 1. Mines are worth 1 victory point and villages are worth 2, and villages are also sturdier in combat. The gathering action is how you actually claim the resources that your structures have produced or started with. Take the action and place the cubes on your mat. The last type of action is spending experience points on your hero. You move up one of your stats, paying an amount of XP as indicated on the track, and improving that stat permanently. At any time, a player may complete a face-up victory point card and claim it on their turn. At the end of the round, players take turns flipping over new cards from either deck of their choice until 4 new ones have been revealed. Then, each player may claim them based on the state of the game. At this time, more than one player can claim the same card, in which case one of those players will take the real thing, and the other player will take generic victory point cards. Turns keep going like this, with players moving, exploring, fighting, building, and leveling up. When 6 turns have passed, the next round begins with the new start player restarting the stack of turn tokens, getting the new victory point cards out onto the table. For 5 rounds, the game ends, and the player with the most victory points from cards, tokens, and structures will be the winner of the game. And that is Heroes of the Heartland. Well, as you might have noticed during my intro before the preview there, it was kind of tough to pin down exactly what type of game the Heroes of the Heartland is. It's a strategy game because you are having to move against your opponent and outmaneuver him and enter into combat, and also enter into combat with the monsters as well. And deciding the best paths and ways to go about doing that. It's area control because, of course, you want control of those tiles. It's not enough to just kick your opponent out of there. You want to also be able to explore the tile, deal with the monsters that come up because of that. And it's also resource management because you want to get those resources. You want to use them to build up your units, which is like the troops and mines, and then upgrade those into villages, and then continue the resource production as well. And also, experience is a resource here. Trying to get as much experience as you can to upgrade your hero stats in order to be a more effective unit out on the field, going around to fight your opponent and just basically move through and explore as much as possible too. So there's a lot of different things to juggle there. And while all this is going on, you have to keep an eye on those victory point cards, because that's a huge, probably the predominant way that you're going to potentially win the game by vying for those. And it's not an easy thing. And do you want to go the path of peace? Do you want to go the path of war? The savvy player is going to do a little bit of both. And so if you're not, that might be a problem for you. But sometimes you want to focus on being more combat-oriented too. If you do focus on being combat-oriented, especially against the other player or players, then you can really hinder their progress as well, and that's going to help you too. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of different ways that you can go about getting to victory in this game, and a lot of different ways that you can play. The thing that I noticed, though, in addition to all that, is that while it seems like there's a lot of things going on, there's a lot of moving parts, in reality, it's all very straightforward. The way that the game is set up is such that everything makes sense logically. Like, you move here, you build a unit, you get resources. You can use them to upgrade your hero. You move your hero along. There isn't like a ton of very tiny, onerous rules to keep track of. There's some very straightforward ones that you have to keep track of. But once you got that, after like a round or two of combat with new players, they pretty much got it. It's not an overwhelming game in that regard. I wouldn't necessarily say you want to throw new people into the woodchucker on this one, but you might want to give someone who's like, okay, I'm ready. I've done a very simple game. I'm ready to move on to the next step. And that's kind of where this sits. But the benefit of that type of game is that you can also have players who are experienced with this type of game still have a lot for them to do and sink their teeth into. They're not going to feel like this is a simple game at all. But the benefit of having a game that's straightforward like that is that you can also teach it very quickly too. And there's a lot of other things to talk about with the game. Nice components. I mean, that's even with the prototype version. So imagine what the final version is going to look like after the Kickstarter campaign concludes. And also potentials for expansion, the high quality artwork, things like that. So if any of that appeals to you, if you like the theme, if you like the sort of blended strategy and resource management and combat, if this fits into a niche for your gaming group that's not too heavy, can be played relatively quickly, but not too light either, or if you know someone who likes a game like this, hey, you don't have to take my word for it. You can go to the official Kickstarter project page and find out more information for yourself, more than I could have possibly told you here. To do that, all you got to do is follow the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Go there, and please consider backing the project. That is Heroes of the Heartland from 2 Dice Games. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors.